We'll just.
Thank you. Happy to be here. So I'm going to start sharing and kind of get this started. So before we kind of dive in, I'd love to know who is here tonight. So if you can drop in the chat what your job title or target role is and kind of where you are in your career. So years of experience, job searching, just starting, whatever it is. So if you could drop that in, I can make sure to be more specific when I kind of go through the presentation and make it more relevant for everyone. So please drop that in the chat so I can see who's attending today. So today we're going to talk about branding and confidence in the job search. This is all about how to show up when you are looking for a new job. And branding can be a broad term. So today we're going to go into what does this mean and how are you showing up and what are the different ways to show up, which includes your LinkedIn profile, posting on LinkedIn, and any other ways that you connect with people. Cool. So we see we have a QA engineer, we have a software engineer, we have executive assistant studying to be a software engineer. Amazing. Thank you. We have a career changer moving into engineering. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So a little bit more about my background. I've worked in tech for 10 years across 3 different roles, and I've done a number of job searches. And fun fact is I am from the East Coast, so I lived in both Boston and New York, and now I live in Southern California. So it's a big change, but a nice place to live. So basically, to start off, we're going to go through the ecosystem of what the job search is. So when you're job searching, you're really going through a lot of different spaces. You're reaching out to people, you're interviewing, you're connecting with people, sharing about yourself. But it really all stems from a certain mindset about yourself and your belief about yourself. And then how you present yourself in your LinkedIn, in your resume, in your DMs. And then, of course, how you speak about yourself if you post content on LinkedIn and how you present yourself when you network with people. So all of these elements and actions combined to create different outcomes. These outcomes could be offers, introductions, connection calls, referrals, all of these different outcomes essentially help you to build momentum in the job search and get where you're going. So branding a lot of times is your visibility. So when you're branding yourself, you're really connecting with others and showing up in a specific way in a professional space, right? So we're going to talk about like personal branding from like the professional space environment. You're not a celebrity. You're also not a product. So we're not going to talk about color schemes and logos. And we're not going to, talk about like purely personality based. So branding in the job search is really a combination of talking about your professional skills and background and who you are as a person, combining that. So when you're showing up in the job search, you're creating visibility. And what that looks like is you're applying online, you're reaching out to people for referrals, you're showing up in any recruiter searches, and of course, engaging with people as a whole. So all these actions together essentially create your brand or your visibility. So before we get into the branding component of what actually happens when you're branding, what it is, how do you do it, we're going to touch on mindset. And this is important because if you don't feel capable or, if a lot of fears come up when you decide to show up for your job search in terms of posting online, networking, etc., you may not do those actions. So we're going to talk about what happens in terms of mindset when you are doing branding in your job search. So visibility is really important, like I talked about. However, it can cause certain fears to come up. And that is because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and you're learning new skills. So anyone who is currently switching from other professions into engineering, or if you can remember back when you were learning the new skills for engineering, you probably felt like completely out of your comfort zone and you were learning a lot of new skills. This is very similar to being visible, to branding yourself and showing up online in a public forum. Most importantly, what happens is you may start to feel vulnerable, and putting yourself out there in a post or a DM may feel unsafe, or you really don't want to do that. So it's important to acknowledge what mindset you're coming into the job search process with, so that you can notice what's happening and work towards a mindset shift. So it's really important to know that this happens to everyone. And one of the biggest challenges a lot of job searchers go through is lack of confidence. And this is not something personal to like you as a person. This is just what happens when you're job searching. And when you're branding yourself, when you're talking about yourself, let's say you're writing a post about your job search, you may feel like, what have I achieved? Or you're not confident about what happened. So this may stop you from sharing, right? But when you're not sharing, you're not showing up, essentially. So it's important to acknowledge that if you don't feel like totally confident, that is totally normal, and that is part of the process. So acknowledge that and find ways to build up your confidence and take those actions. So I want to take a moment just to ask you, what do you believe about yourself? Because this is just a basic question. It is a bit broad, but it's basically asking you, what is your belief about yourself as a person? Just put in whatever comes to mind in the chat. Basically, I believe I am XYZ. That might be what you answer. So take a moment and add that into the chat. So Demi says, I believe I'm adaptable and willing to learn. Excellent. So a lot of you are in the process of learning something new or looking for a new job. So it's important to acknowledge that you're doing that and to kind of bolster your confidence in that way. So Vanya says, I believe I'm capable and doing a great job. Awesome. Anna says, maybe problem solver. Great. Ketki says flexible and kind. Karen says, I'm willing for my mind to change. Excellent. So you basically have strong beliefs about who you are as a person. So what you want to do is use that as your grounding to build your brand, talk about yourself in that way, and build confidence on top of that. So if you ever encounter any of these limiting beliefs or mindset blocks, these are some reframes that you can use. So this is important to mention, because if you come up against these thoughts when you are sharing about yourself online, or when you're networking and you're not sure what to say, you want to reframe how you think about the process so that you don't feel stuck and you can continue to take action. So if you are not sure where to start in, talking about yourself, maybe you're thinking, I don't have anything to say, which is normal as part of the process. That's your starting point. If you reframe that to, I bring value to others, you immediately start to think about all the value that you bring, and then that's something you can talk about. If you feel like talking about yourself is wrong, maybe you've been taught to not talk about yourself as much, you can reframe that to, it's safe to share, which means it is okay to share, and in fact, it's good to share, right? And that will get you more motivated to actually share. The last thing is, if you come across feelings or thoughts around, I don't want to bother people, I don't know if this is right, I don't want to like go put myself out there. You want to remind yourself that people want to help me. So being in the mindset of people want to help me is very motivational and gives you the inspiration to find different ways to reach out to people, to talk about yourself, and basically showcase who you are, if you believe that people want to help you. So basically, once we kind of cover the mindset piece, you're more ready to essentially take on branding. So acknowledging any, gaps that may come up, or limiting beliefs that may emerge when you are doing the actual branding piece is important. But maybe, you feel super confident, you're really happy to share about yourself. Maybe you're not sure where to start. So we'll cover some of that in terms of real life examples of how to actually brand yourself online. So as we know, the job market is crowded. There is still a ton of roles, but there's just more and more people entering the tech job market. So what you want to do is find ways to stand out. So in terms of shifts and strategies, branding is one of the best ways to stand out in a crowded marketplace. So in the job search, there's a lot of different tools, and personal branding is a big part of that. As you could see, networking is one of them, connection calls, going local, niching down. So all of these are tools that you can use based on your backgrounds, what your, ideal job is, what your local environment looks like, all these different things. So based on who you are, and all the different things that you bring, you can pick and choose the different tools from the job search toolbox. So in terms of branding, what is it? So branding is really about how you connect with others online. It means how you show up, how you talk about yourself. Visually, it's how you present yourself in your profile. In a more, broader sense, it's how you speak about yourself and what you speak about. So all of that combines to the perception that you create about who you are as a professional person on LinkedIn. So branding includes a couple of different things. It starts with your profile, and that is a pretty straightforward area. It's an area that you create kind of like a landing page for yourself. And then that serves as a signal to others about what role you're looking for, who you are, what your hobbies are, what your favorite color is, like whatever it is that you want to share with people, starting with your professional skills and then adding on anything personal. After that, the LinkedIn posts are a big part of your brand. So what that means is the communication that you put out. So if you haven't been posting, I highly encourage that. And basically, that is the way people get to know you. So as I was saying, branding is how you connect with others online. Without posts, you have very, very small opportunities to connect with them. Outside, of course, you could do a DM strategy of networking, and that's a big way. But it's going to be one-to-one, right? So if you want to really get more people to help you, because you never know who's available to help you, LinkedIn posts is the best way to share who you are, what you're looking for, and how people can help you. And the last thing in terms of branding is comments and reposts. So this is another way to add content and engage with the community in a way that is showing up authentically as who you are. And that could be adding humor. That could be, reposting with your thoughts about something. It could be engaging in conversations you're interested in, whether it's on the professional side or maybe some hobbies. So there could be a mix. But basically between your profile, the posts and comments, you're showing up as a specific individual, and that is your brand. So when you start to build your brand, you start from the LinkedIn page, and that is because, that is your landing page. That is where people land to view who you are. So this is an example of an engineer who is a career changer. She went from biology as a biolab tech into engineering. She did a boot camp. And then she spent about 8 months job searching, and she landed at a company that is actually in a similar space to her. So what you might find is that whatever your background is, your first or second job may have some relevance to that, which is very interesting. But basically, even while she was job searching and even before, the job search, she was always posting about herself and she was sharing her experiences. So when people see a post or a comment and they go to your page, they want to know, who is this person and what do they care about? What are they looking for? If I can help them, how can I help them? So basically, it's the place where you can really showcase who you are, first as a professional person, and then anything personal that is important to you. So the banner is a nice way to really call people attention, to draw attention to something. That could be a job title, that could be how they can help you, that could be something, that's relevant to your career goals. The selfie is also really important. So that is one of the very few places we actually get to like really see you visually, like your face. So find a selfie that's bright, where you're smiling and really like says something about who you are as a person. The headline is another really important part. So if you're job searching, this is literally one of the best ways to target certain roles. So you want to add the job title in there, and then some keywords about that. And that's so the algorithm really understands what you're looking for. Recruiters can find you. People can very quickly, within 1 second or less, understand what you're looking for in terms of professional role. So between the banner, selfie, and headline, you're creating your first impression. So after that, you have a couple other options in the LinkedIn page, and one of them is featured. So this option is a way to kind of feature your work or your resume, or some like notable highlights about yourself. Maybe you were on a podcast, maybe you completed a project, maybe you did a post that was really popular and you want to showcase it. So the feature section is a great way to do that. And then of course your experience. So the experience section is sometimes misunderstood because often people would put like only their actual full-time work experience in it. But the thing with LinkedIn is that you could be, job switching, like some of you are, could be looking for a completely new career, right, in tech. And some of your projects that you're working on, that's what you have for work experience. So work experience is the key area to add your actual projects, internships, volunteer work, anything that's super relevant to the role. It doesn't only have to be full-time. Think of experience as this catch-all for like your resume that you're going to showcase to the public. And you want it to be filled out as well, if not better than your resume, because likely it's going to be seen much more than your resume. So if anything you're worried about and working on is your LinkedIn profile, and hopefully you're not redoing your resume 10 times, because your resume may get, 2-3 people seeing it a week, versus your profile getting maybe 10, 20, even 100 plus people seeing it a week, depending on how active you are. So you want to be prepared to showcase your best professional self when people see it. So the next part is about actually showing up. And in LinkedIn, that looks like posting. So I want to take a quick pause and get an understanding of what do you believe about posting on LinkedIn? So put in the chat whatever it is that comes to mind. And if anyone here has been posting or thinking about posting, definitely let me know as well. Okay, someone says it's intimidating. Someone says takes a lot of effort for me. And it says really helps to spread interesting bits of information around. Teal says, I don't really have the energy for it. Okay, thank you. That's great to know. Karen says, I always feel it needs to be polished. Okay, I hear you. Anyone else? Anyone that's been posting already? And maybe you've wanted to post but haven't. You could let me know as well. Awesome. So if anything else comes to mind, or if you haven't added in the chat, please do so. So basically, posting is key to your brand because this is how people get to know you. In LinkedIn, the post is your representation of who you are, who your professional self is. And unlike Instagram or other platforms, visuals are useful, but not the most important thing. Words are, right? So in LinkedIn, you really get the space to shine and form connections with people over telling real stories. And this is great because everyone has amazing stories and you don't need to be a photographer or create a dance for it. And what you want to start doing is adding posts, like writing about yourself in a way that you're just sharing, right? And it may feel a little strange because you may say, well, no one's asking me to share, or no one's like sending me, you know, a brief of what to share. And that's totally fine. Your job as a job seeker, as someone who wants to grow your career, is to practice sharing about yourself without being prompted. And this is important because this helps you practice, you know, talking about yourself, holding yourself accountable. It also helps stretch yourself a little bit. So if you're feeling really vulnerable, sharing in a public forum, you know, posting, you know, one time and then another week, another time, and then maybe 2 posts after that, that helps you learn that it's safe to do that, and you will get amazing feedback. So if it's your first time posting and you put up a post, LinkedIn rewards that. Actually, LinkedIn rewards accounts with less followers. So good for you. Anyone that's just starting, you actually have a great platform to start. So basically, posting enables you to connect with others that you might not have ever met, because no one knows like the entirety of people to reach out to, even if you're constantly networking. Posting exposes you to new people that are willing to help, want to become advocates, but they haven't met you yet. So posting is a way for you to help them help you, essentially. And there's a couple of easy ways to start, which we'll cover. But when you're posting, you're staying top of mind for all those people that can help you. So before we kind of dive into some tactics, I wanted to go through this case study. So in my coaching program, Aaron joined a year after he was finished with his training as an engineer. And his background is a lawyer, right? So he had a really great background, but he didn't want to continue being a lawyer, and he wanted to use his knowledge in law in the tech space. So he landed on legal tech as a niche that he could explore for his first role in tech. So basically what he did was start finding content around legal tech. And one of the content that was available was a podcast. And this is a really small space. So it's a really, it's a niche. So there's not a lot of companies there. And this guy, Charles, who ran the podcast for legal tech, he was probably one of the few ones that ever did this, because it's just a very small space of the kind of companies that would pop up for legal tech software. So when Aaron kind of reviewed this podcast, he made sure to really call out the people, put in a lot of like thought into how he described things. But really, he just like wrote what he experienced, right? And this one post landed him an opportunity to join the community of legal tech people, which led him to meet a founder, which led to an offer. So this is an example of really being on brand and really building a personal brand that in this case, it's very niche. So it's even more likely to connect you with the right people. So all branding is like, we're going to talk to an audience who can help us. We don't know who the specific people are, but we know that they're out there. And we're going to share who we are, what we like, what our skills are, and what we're passionate about. And the right people will see it and want to connect with us. And we're going to talk about that. All right. We're going to talk about the passion that we have, skydiving or music, or our new career in engineering or engineering management, whatever it is that you're looking for. So when you talk about something on LinkedIn, the people you're attracting are also interested in that topic. So it's a really good method to call in community and engagement, essentially. So being visible gets you hired, and this is guaranteed. This is one of the best strategies to get hired. This is not the only strategy. As you saw, there are multiple tools for the job search, but this is one of the strategies that really make the job search much less lonely, help you build a network, really connect with people in real time, build a community, and help you feel like there's so many people that are willing to help, which is the most important part in the job search, to not feel like you're alone. So all these people here essentially use different strategies of personal branding in order to get hired one way or another. And it doesn't mean that they made a post and then, someone landed that, giving them a job. It means that because of them consistently showing up and posting about different things about themselves, they were able to draw in and attract people that they didn't even know were watching or interested in what they have to say. But one day these people contacted them and were like, hey, I really like what you've been posting about. I resonate with it. Here's how I can help you. So there's different ways to engage in branding. Like I said, you could do a lot of commenting like Sean did here. Ashley was someone that did a lot of posting about her experience as a PhD going into engineering or user experience. And by focusing on topics that were of real interest to, Ashley was talking about how she was transitioning out of higher ed into more of a corporate world, right? She was attracting people that could help her. So posts are also really, really important because remember how we were talking about the LinkedIn profile as your landing page? Like if it's amazing, but no one sees it, it doesn't work for you, right? It's not doing anything for you. So you want your post to essentially help people see you as a qualified candidate for whatever you're going for, but they can only see you if they are reminded of you. So think of LinkedIn as a social media that actually rewards you for your effort of showing up versus other social media that is more about you, buying products from the ads. So if anything, LinkedIn wants more people to post. And when you show up consistently, let's say at least once a week, you remind your network of who you are, and new people start seeing you as well. And therefore your profile gets seen. And if your profile is all set up as your landing page, then the right people will reach out and be like, oh, I see you're looking for this, or I noticed you're looking for help in that. I can help you. So in terms of tactics, when you start actually posting and branding, you want to think about who are you speaking to. So it doesn't mean that you're going to write only to recruiters, only to hiring managers, or only to other engineers. You just want to imagine like a person that you're speaking to. And maybe it's, a previous manager. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a friend that you talk about career a lot. You want to identify someone that you can imagine speaking to. So when you're posting, you're not like writing a formal essay, or it doesn't feel like a cover letter or something like that. LinkedIn is all about connection, conversation, being your authentic self. So find ways to really just be yourself in your writing. And this can take some practice. It doesn't have to, come out right away. But do, think of someone that you'll be posting for, perhaps, as a starting point. Another thing to get more visibility in terms of your brand is to use networking as a strategy while you're branding. So when you post, you can check who's responding to it, who's commenting, and you can engage with them. So that way you enhance your network, continue to grow it while you're also branding, right? And this is a really easy way to grow your network by personal branding. So in terms of posting, if you post 2-3 times a week, you'll definitely, grow your network pretty quickly. But you can definitely start with just one. a week is fine. And you want to post like in the days that most people are on LinkedIn, which is earlier in the week and earlier in the day as well. But again, just post, just do it. Just put out whatever you can right now, and then you can figure out, the best times for this, best formatting for that afterwards. Just kind of get started. And the last thing is engaging with your network by using the feed and kind of adding comments, reposting. That is an excellent way to showcase who you are. You can use humor. You could, add your opinion on different topics. It really expands the kind of things you can talk about. So when you're identifying your audience, these are some of the people that could be seeing your posts. They could be startup founders, they could be other engineers, they could be recruiters, anyone in your network. It could be childhood friends, a cousin of a friend of your father, like it could be anyone. And just like other random people that are on LinkedIn, you never know who sees your content. And that's kind of the beauty of it. So just identify your audience based on like a topic, right? And like what you're going for and targeting, right? So a lot of you here is probably targeting engineering jobs. So you probably want to talk about your skills in engineering, your communication skills, working in a team, maybe your background, right? So don't worry about like educating people about like the technicalities of this and that. Just talk about yourself and how you communicate with others in storytelling formats. So finally, what to post, right? So there's a whole lot of topics you can post about, but here are some basics. So first, stories about your skills and projects. So this is important because this really showcases your transferable skills, your technical skills, your actual work that you've done. So think of it as preparation for interviews. So anytime you're writing about yourself, you can use the exact same words, the same structure to talk about yourself in interviews when you're asked about, tell me about a time when. Another thing to post on is literally your job search updates. So even if you post once a week, feeling this way about my job search, I've done XYZ, I've connected with these people, I'm gonna keep going, like that is better than no post. So definitely practice talking about yourself from whatever angle you feel comfortable starting with. And talking about your job search is one of the easiest ways. Hobbies and personal interests are amazing ways to connect with people that otherwise might not have ever connected with you. So you never know what other people's hobbies and interests are. Like we don't really talk about that as much, but occasionally you can add posts about that. And that kind of creates a more well-rounded brand. Because let's say you're an engineer and you really like working in machine learning, and you also have a hobby of knitting. I don't know, maybe there's another engineer that loves knitting and you guys can connect on that, right? So there's ways to showcase who you are as the person through posts, and that will further expand who you can connect with and really showcase who you are, which is your personal brand. Two other things after that is shout outs. So that's just tagging people, kind of showing people, maybe a connection call that you did. That's great. I didn't know that. I just kind of made that up, but I know that some people like knitting, so awesome. I never think like anything I can think of. I sometimes meet people and I was like, whoa, that just blows my mind. So that's great. So shout outs are great. So you can tag people for different things. Maybe you had a connection call with them. Maybe you've learned something from their post. Sometimes you don't even have to talk with them and you can still tag them, right? Because maybe they're sharing something that you really learned from and you can express gratitude from that. So basically like thank you posts are great shout outs. You attended something like a virtual event, you attended this event, whatever you did, any activity you did, and there are other people there, Great post for a shout out. And I'll show you some examples before we end. And finally, reposts. So if you're terrified of posting for whatever's going on, that's fine. Start with reposts. So reposts are basically you repost with your thoughts. So let's say I do a post of like recapping this event, and you choose to repost it and then add your thoughts on top of that. So you could do a shout out on top of that and your opinion on, the event. So you don't have to start your own post. You can kind of like tag along to someone's post. So these are great ideas that can help you get started, essentially. Just another reminder, posting really does work. This is Aiden that really utilized networking. This did not turn into a job offer, but this shows that this story that he shared about himself, navigating the software engineering space and his learning, caught the attention of a founder. There are founders scrolling LinkedIn all the time for all kinds of startups, but especially smaller ones. And he thought maybe Aiden could be a good fit for his startup. It turned out that, his startup required a little more experience. However, this is a good relationship, and this would have never have happened if Aiden didn't post. So you never know who's looking at your posts. And I'm sure some of you here are kind of like silently reviewing things, scrolling but not engaging. Same thing. There's billions of people doing that. So you don't have to worry about who they are. All you do is share who you are, and the right ones come out. So before we end on this homework, I'm going to share another deck with some examples. But basically, one thing that I'd recommend you to do either directly after this event or tomorrow is to pick one topic from this deck and write one post. And these are some prompts that you can use. But before we end, I'm going to show you some examples. And make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want more support in this area. So here's some hooks to kind of like start a post. So numbers work really well. Wins and challenges, of course, like announcing a post or something you won or feel proud of. Emotions are amazing ways to kind of start a post with, or even right in the middle, which is a kind of emotion as well. But basically it's a storytelling. These are different storytelling formats that help you grab people's attention, and then you can write more details. So these are like the TLDR, and then you write the actual post. So here's an open to work post example. So you've probably seen a ton of these. You can repurpose them and basically reuse them weekly, just adding more details about the process of your job search. Here's some examples around projects and skills. Basically anything that's happening is better to post about it publicly than not. Just start somewhere. And here's kind of the repurpose of the open to work ones, basically like updates on what's happening in your job search. You don't have to wait like months or weeks even. You could just do that every week or every 2 weeks, just like a recap of what happened, tag people, express things, talk about your learnings, things like that. And like I said, hobbies, personal interests are great. You don't want to do only these, but you want to sprinkle them in when you're posting. So whatever is meaningful for you. Celebrations are great. Cultural opinions on something that matters to you. I don't know, posts of your animals, posts of hobbies, whatever it is. People really like pay attention to that a little more. It adds a little flavor and spark to LinkedIn because we're all probably tired of the job search posts. Those are needed. But in between that, you can sprinkle some personal ones. And again, shout outs are a really simple way to just like recap something you've done and tag people. And that gives visibility to you, them, everyone wins. And repost is when you're tagging along to a post with an opinion, or just saying, this is great, sharing with my network. So in summary, consistency is more important than kind of a more polished post or length or anything like that. If you want to try once a week to start, that's great. 2 to 3 times a week is, where you might end up. But you definitely don't need to do more than that. But once a week is plenty to begin. And then when you do multiple posts, you can vary the topics. And of course, if once you start posting more consistently and you start finding your voice, your personal brands, you can create a backlog and then have top posts kind of scheduled as well. So generally speaking, you can keep it short and sweet, unless you really want to tell a long story, that's fine. But it doesn't always have to be like a whole story. Think about a hook when you're writing, because that helps grab people's attention, and definitely space out your content so things are a little easier to read. So yeah, I think that covers everything. So happy to kind of open the floor to questions and talk about personal brand.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for your lovely talk. Your slide about the boot camps and 1 million people came out of boot camps last year and are looking for jobs. What are the best ways you find that specifically people coming out of boot camps can like make themselves stand out in the crowd?
I'm talking about transferable skills first and foremost.
Okay.
And your personality, like your hobbies or something interesting. Maybe your hobby is coding, I don't know. But maybe a combination, like a post about a tech project and a post about a hobby would be nice. So like basically show up as yourself in like these different, in the different posts. And that way people get to know different sides of you. So you're not like a bootcamp grad, like everyone is a bootcamp grad. That's great. That's one identity. But what else? Like, what's one thing that most people don't know about you, or even I don't know about you because I've just met you?
That's cool. That's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So a prompt I like to use with clients is, what's one thing I don't know about you? Or what do most people not know about you, right? Most people haven't met you yet. So your job is to essentially share all these different things that no one really knows yet. But as you keep sharing it, people learn about you and then they can like connect with you on those topics. So basically show up as an individual from the both professional side and personal side combined.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone here has posted before?
I haven't posted, but I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So how would you go about when you're searching for a new role, but you don't want your manager or your current team to know about it?
Yeah, that's perfect. So basically you talk about how interesting your current role is. Hopefully you've learned something or you've done something you're proud of. I would hope in your current role, you start talking about your current experiences. I don't know how invested you are in like the company and if you like the company or not, but you can talk about the company. You can talk about your work. Obviously, you don't have to disclose any details of like the projects or anything, but you can talk about things you're proud of. You can tag coworkers and be like, so grateful to work with this person. I know it sounds a little fake and weird, but it's really a good tactic to be visible and get visibility. And hopefully you don't like dislike people you work with. So I don't know, pick 1 or 2 people that you work with closely and you've had decent or good working relationships with. Basically pick the more upbeat, fun parts of your job that you can share and post about it. And then on the down low, DM a lot of people and be like, I'm interested in this role. Can you help me? But the thing is, what happens is when you're active, on LinkedIn, recruiters will start to see you, and you can do a hidden open to work without the banner. And you'll start to get recruiter DMs. So LinkedIn favorites people that are active. I mean, your posts don't have to be that detailed, just anything. Talk about yourself. I don't know, talk about a weekend trip. So people that are employed actually have a way more, like, it doesn't really matter like what you talk about, just like talk about something vaguely relevant to your profession. If you're on the down low.
Really good tips. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. If you practice them, let me know. You can even tag me and I don't know, use that as a starting point.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. What else? So one thing I wanted to address is some of the comments around networking. So I'm just going through that. One second. Okay, so Sheridan says it's intimidating. Would you mind talking a little more about what that means for you?
Sure. I've made one post so far on LinkedIn. Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button earlier. And it felt kind of scary because I knew I was putting myself in front of like my colleagues and my former colleagues and classmates and all kinds of people. What I mean by intimidating.
Okay, absolutely. Yes. So that is what I was saying in terms of it feels vulnerable, at least at first, because we're not, taught to, speak in public. Like not everyone's a public speaker. So it is a process, and it's great that you recognize that. Are you willing to continue posting, or maybe what are your goals that posting can help you?
I mean, now that I've listened to your talk, I feel a lot braver about doing it again. So I think I will keep posting maybe like once a week to start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Juanita says, takes a lot of effort for me. Could you share a little more details on that?
I've posted before, but I guess I kind of got discouraged because, like, I mean, I'm not, a lot of people don't know me, and that's like the point. But it's like, I guess when you see like no activity, it feels a little bit discouraging. But I guess to what you said before, in order to build up to that, you have to post consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's a skill, just like anything else. So it didn't used to be as necessary, but now it's more necessary. So think of it as a valuable new skill that you're learning. And if you want to kind of combine that with, well, what am I getting out of it? It teaches you to be confident sharing about yourself, which allows you to be more confident interviewing, which allows you to, perform better at interviews, connect better with employers, and make the process feel less lonely and more kind of more about connecting, essentially. So in a way, it potentially could make the job search fun, which is possible when you have, the right safety net, of course, but also when you feel excited about sharing about yourself. So imagine, one candidate that, has amazing experience, but is not really sure about the stories they want to share, or doesn't feel really confident about like their outcomes, even though they're really great outcomes. And another candidate that really has like 2 years of experience, not super, they're good at what they do, but like, it's fine. They keep doing it. They have some outcomes. But the way they show up in their interviews is really excited to share what they've done. Kind of like children, right? Like 5-year-olds, like, here's a drawing I made. Like, it's not about the level of expertise. It's about the energy you bring to the communication. So hopefully, anyone with actual amazing outcomes kind of doesn't take that for granted. A lot of people, especially women, can just take for granted what we've accomplished. and say, oh, that's no problem, whatever, I can do that. I can do that like in my sleep, and like it doesn't matter. So like instead of thinking that it doesn't matter, that it's not like an accomplishment, you want to reframe that mindset into like, I'm actually really excited about this. This is an amazing outcome. And even if you've worked on a project that didn't have a lot of teammates, like I worked on a project by myself and I didn't have anyone tell me like, this is amazing. You know, when I really reviewed my work, I saw that it was really, really amazing work. So I became really excited to share about it then. So it's about kind of your mindset and how you talk about yourself. So maybe that gave you some more inspiration.
Thank you.
Let's see. So someone asked, is it normal for your post to have no interaction? At first, it's very possible, yes. If you want to encourage people to interact with it, you can have a few people that maybe are your friends that you send your post to, and then ask them to interact with it. But don't worry about the outcomes. It's really about you sharing about yourself. So if you are like, oh my God, like no one's gonna look at it, people will see it. They might not react to it. But if you keep posting over time, people will see more and more and more. So when I got on LinkedIn, you know, I was not active at all. And eventually people saw it, and other people that resonated with what I was saying shared my posts and started like getting me into that community. So basically, to be in a community, you got to start somewhere. So if you don't have interactions at first, that's totally fine. Don't take that as like any kind of outcome. Just keep going, basically. And share about yourself. Come into it with an open mindset. So Sarah asked, given the nastiness of seems directed some people, no interaction is not the worst case. Absolutely. And yeah, if people are nasty, I delete comments if I don't like them. So I block people all the time if I don't like it. Luckily, I haven't had many of those. But some people are just weird, or some are just like, I don't know what world they're living in, but just remove the comment, block them, imagine they're not there. There's a million other people around. So don't worry about that. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. So anyone want to speak up? All right.
Okay, yeah, I think there are no more questions. Going once, going twice. But yeah, I think we'll wrap up here. Jerke, would you like to take over?
Yeah. So just would like to thank Anna for organizing this and for sharing like so much valuable information with us. Really learned a lot. And thanks everyone for joining this evening. I'm sure we all can find something new and something useful from this session. All right. Have a good night.
Yeah, goodbye, everyone. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I know Sarah posted a question. Just message me on LinkedIn and I'll answer it. Bye, everyone.